a couple more minutes for take a couple more minutes for it to populate. Then we'll get started. It looks like we've leveled off at around 103. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'd like to again welcome everyone to the Seneca Valley School District School Board work session meeting of October 4th, 2021. At this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Vitale, who will introduce the moment of silence for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. During our moment of silence this evening, I would like to recognize and for us to think of his family, Dr. Francis Vincent Barnes. Dr. Barnes was a mentor of mine. He passed away on Saturday, September 18th. He was not only a mentor to me, he was a mentor to many superintendents and principals in the state of Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, he was our first African-American to serve as the Pennsylvania State Secretary of Education. He, at one point, was also a principal at North Allegheny High School. As a matter of fact, I know there's someone on our executive team that he was her principal. And so Dr. Barnes was really a light for so many of us, and he will be sadly missed. He was so dedicated to education. I find it very fitting that his celebration of life will actually did occur yesterday at Palisades High School athletic field, where he was an administrator there, and he will be sadly missed. If you could just keep him in your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to introduce Ms. Andresi to take over from here, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's student for I Led the Pledge is Andrew Zavolta. Andrew is a fourth grader from Rowan Elementary School. He is the son of Paul and Carrie Zavolta of Cranberry Township. Andrew was nominated this evening by Rowan Principal Ms. Nan Farmer. And Andrew's mom tells us his favorite subjects are math and science. He loves to travel, and he especially loves his dog, Max. And when he grows up, Andrew tells us he wants to be a movie star. So at this time, we would ask the board and administration to turn off their videos, and we invite everyone at home to watch. Please stand if they are able and join us in saying the pledge along with Andrew. Dr. Polano, when you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I gotta love the smile at the end of that too. So always makes me happy to have the students doing that. Let me turn my video back on now. Thank you again, Ms. Andresi. We will start with the roll call. Ms. Mislin, please.
Ms. Bradel. Here. Mr. DiTullio.
Here.
Ms. Harrison. Here. Mr. Hester.
Here.
Mr. Jacobs.
Here.
Mr. Nickel.
Present.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Ms. Whittle.
Here.
And Mr. Widdowson.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our information reports. We'll start off with dates to remember. And again, back to Ms. Andresi, please.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Under dates to remember, just a note that October is National Principals Month. It is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. On October 7th, which is this Thursday, we will be hosting our homecoming parade and carnival. The carnival will be held at 5 p.m., followed by the parade at 7 p.m. Both events will be held outside on the district's secondary campus in Jackson Township. And just as a side note, at the carnival, food booths with nachos, pulled pork, apple crisp, and much more will be available for purchase, and that event is open to the public. On October 9th, which is Saturday, we will be hosting our homecoming dances for grades 9 through 12 from 7 to 10 p.m. And these will be held at 2 outdoor locations again on our campus. On October 11th, which is next Monday, this is an Act 80 day, so there will be no school for students and no school board meeting that evening. So just to highlight, on the next October 12th, that is Tuesday, for our next regular school board meeting, which will be held at 7 p.m. October 16th, we'll be hosting a PSAT test date at the high school. October 22nd will mark the end of the first 9 weeks for grades 7 through 12 who are in the cyber program of the Seneca Valley Academy of Choice. October 22nd and October 29th, we will be holding district-wide Pink Out Days in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And October 22nd will mark the end of the first 9 weeks for grades 7 through 12 who are in-person learning. So that is our dates to remember. Moving on, item B, as we noted last month, we are pleased to return for the second year the Seneca Valley All-Star Awards program. Just as a reminder, the All-Star Awards program was developed to officially recognize and show appreciation to Seneca Valley classified employees, that's secretaries, paraprofessionals, custodial and maintenance employees, as well as cafeteria personnel and bus drivers. Many times they are often the unsung heroes of our schools. This All-Star Award that we are giving out tonight honors the career and very much the dedicated service of a school bus driver who very sadly passed away just last month. And this was after decades of service to Seneca Valley. Our All-Star winner is the late Mr. Ray Albert Jr. To recognize Mr. Albert, I would like to welcome or invite Mr. Jim Pearson, our Seneca Valley Transportation Director, to share with us his nomination. Mr. Pearson.
All right, thank you. Ray served in the Seneca Valley School District for 47 years. He was my unofficial assistant director, taking a leadership role as coordinating the activity buses. And in fact, he purchased the blue activity bus numbers out of his own pocket to help the students find their activity bus easier. He cared deeply about his profession as a school bus driver. During the spring and the summer of 2020, Ray volunteered his time to deliver food and other items from one building cafeteria to another. The food delivery supported the need to feed families living in the Seneca Valley School District during the initial start of COVID in 2020. I worked along with Ray in the box truck that you see here in the picture, donated by ABC Transit, and we learned a lot about one another. The last time I saw Ray, we talked about a trip that he wanted to take on his houseboat that starts in the Great Lakes, goes through the St. Lawrence Seaway, out to the Atlantic Ocean, and follow the East Coast down to the Florida Keys. Ray and I both shared the love of water, both on top of the water and underneath, scuba diving. As a school bus driver, Ray served multiple generations of students riding his bus over the 47 years he served his community. At the celebration of life that they are going to have here on Saturday, October 9th at 2 p.m. at the Harmony Zelienople United Methodist Church, we expect to see grandparents, parents, and current students in attendance. It's amazing how many lives one man, one bus driver, can influence and affect the lives of others. Ray was a man who endured the loss of his mother at a young age. He was raised by his grandparents on a farm, and he served his country during the Vietnam War. He was kind. He was the kind of man who could fix anything. If he didn't have a part that he needed, he would make the part to get the job done. I was most impressed by this elevator that he made on his boat, on his houseboat, that allowed his wife, Chrissy, to be able to use the ladder to get from the first floor of the houseboat up to the captain's perch in the houseboat. Ray had a strong demeanor and a heart of gold. He had a rough personality, but he was caring and kind. Some would consider him stubborn, but I found that he would listen to reason. He had his rules to keep the kids safe. Ray ran the same route for the last 30 years of his 47 years as a bus driver in Seneca Valley School District. Not only did he serve his country as a military man, but he served his community as a bus driver. He will be missed by many, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, Ray, and I will meet you in the Florida Keys so we can go diving together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Any other school board member like to make a comment? I'm going to jump in because Ray was my children's activity bus driver, and we happened to be the last stop on the activity run. So my oldest daughter many times would be the last one on the bus and would sit and talk with Ray. And I think Mr. Pearson said it correctly. Some would say that he was, gruff. The kids would say he was mean as a bus driver, but my daughter always said that he was one of the most caring people she ever met. Just him being on that bus, talking to them one-on-one, coming up, there was no doubt, he made a difference in her life. So he did touch, a lot of students over the years, and his kindness and his compassion for people. So he will be missed. My kids, when they found out, were very upset because the activity buses, weren't a big thing last year. So they didn't get to see Ray as much as they wanted to. So I was very sad to find out that he had passed. And I think, Mr. Pearson, you did a wonderful job of summarizing his dedication and wonderfulness to the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on.
Mr. DiTulio,
I'm sorry.
I
Sorry, Linda.
apologize for interrupting.
That's fine.
I just want to note that Chrissy Albert is joining us this evening, Ray's wife. And I know that she wanted the opportunity to possibly say a few words. Chrissy, if you are up to that, we would certainly welcome it.
Thank you all. It's a big loss, 47, almost 48 years together. Jim talked about our boat. We like to find old boats that were ready for the graveyard and restore them. And yeah, he was a MacGyver. He could find things and put them together. My knees would not let me go up and down the ladder on the back, but I love to be up on the top deck. So he made a lift and up I went. I had a button and a battery pulled the little, I don't know, some type of a lift or something. It pulled me up. A lot of people took him as a rough person, but deep inside, there was a big soft teddy bear. He loved his kids. He loved being able to give them a smile in the morning and a smile at night. And if Mr. Moon was here, he would tell you that Ray taught him something. Ray would say a prayer every morning for every student that was on his bus. He maybe didn't know what was bothering them, but he would say a prayer before he started his route for as long as I can remember. And Reed Moon thought that was so wonderful that not only did he pray that they have a safe day, but anything that bothered them or problems at home, that they would find someone they could talk to. I thank you for this honor. All of you and your families are welcome to join us on Saturday, as Jim Pearson said. And it's an honor. I just wish he was here to share it with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. I really appreciate it. We, on behalf of the district and the board, will be and bringing this award to you. Chrissy, if you did not know, is a driver for Seneca Valley as well. So we will be catching up with you this week to share that award with you. And I thank you again for being here. I know this is a difficult time, and on behalf of all of us, you have our deepest sympathies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Andraci,
Yes.
if you continue on with our
Absolutely.
student staff recognition, please.
Yes, we have 2 items of recognition this evening under item C. Officials of the National Merit Scholarship Corporation recently announced that Seneca Valley senior Daniel Spear is a semifinalist in the 67th Annual National Merit Scholarship Program. As a semifinalist, Daniel will have the opportunity to continue in the competition for some 7,500 National Merit Scholarships worth more than $30 million that will be offered next spring. About 95% of the semifinalists are expected to attain finalist standing, which will be announced in February 2022. And approximately half of the finalists will win a National Merit Scholarship, earning the National Scholar title. The nationwide pool of semifinalists represent less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors, including the highest scoring entrants in each state. Daniel had hoped to join us tonight, but he did have something come up last minute, and he wanted me to extend his appreciation tonight for your recognition of him. Under our second item, under item C, Seneca Valley seniors Nicholas Holkrod, Chris Helmson, Kaysen Kunkelman, Nick Nedzeski, Alex Neff, Shankar Pillai, Veronica Pimenova, Xavier Reese, Aiden Uher, Liam Volk-Klaas, and Merrick Weimer have been named commended students in the 2022 National Merit Scholarship Program. A letter of commendation from the school and National Merit Scholarship Corporation, which conducts the program, was presented by the principal to these scholastically talented seniors. These seniors are 11 of about 34,000 commended students throughout the nation that are being recognized for their exceptional academic promise. Although they will not continue in the competition for National Merit Scholarship Awards, commended students place among the top 50,000 scorers of more than 1.5 million students who entered the 2022 competition by taking the 2020 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. Seneca Valley's senior high school principal, Bob Check, added, quote, and I quote, "Our student body has a tremendous amount of talent and success within it, and through the results of our PSAT test, these 11 students represent the talent and success of our academic programs. We are very proud of them. We are very proud of all of them and are excited for their current achievement as well as their future potential," unquote. So we congratulate all of those students for their outstanding results on that program. In our item 4D this evening, I'd like to note that Information Technology Professionals Day, or IT Professionals Day, was held last month. So we wanted to be sure and recognize the school technology assistants for their hard work and dedication to students and families, especially during the pandemic. And they include Jody Gianfrancesco, Connequenessing Valley Elementary School, Susan Hilliard, the Intermediate High School, Jennifer Kaufman, Seneca Valley Senior High School, Patricia Riste, Ryan Gloyer Middle School, Sandra Suski, Rowan Elementary School, Kelly Swain, Hain Elementary / Hain Middle School, and Pamela Weiss, Evans City Elementary, Evans City Middle School. And for this recognition, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sean Van Scoy, our IT Director, to welcome in a special guest this evening. Mr. Van Scoy.
Imagine the challenge of supporting your household technology. I think this is something most of us can relate to. I know I can attest to it because my neighbors and my family are always asking me questions about how to fix their home computer. Imagine if you had over 7,000 laptops in your home. Our school district has over 7,300 laptops. And we would not be able to sustain our one-to-one program without these hardworking, dedicated individuals. I'd like to personally thank, on behalf of the IT department and the school district, all the hard work that you put in daily we know that it is recognized and greatly appreciated. In a minute, it'll be my pleasure to introduce you to Jen Kaufman. Jen and her colleagues keep the technology going. They work together in the schools to support the technology that our students and teachers use daily. When I look back, the past few years has brought an increased need for technology in schools, especially the need for a one-to-one program. And that's one laptop per student. Examples of how the school district's one-to-one program is used include in-class and remote learning, homework, online textbooks, communication, collaboration, in-class activities, and access to school resources and software. It's the people that make the difference, and this is a great group of people. I'm very proud to introduce to you Jen Kaufman, and she will now provide an overview of some of the things that they do.
Are we really having technical difficulties?
Yes, we are.
During it? IT. Yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for getting there because I was taking the blame for this one.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a great honor to be a part of the Seneca Valley IT staff. It is a great team to work with. And as Sean had mentioned, the one-to-one program is something to be very proud of. And when I'm speaking to people from outside of the district, it's one of the things that I like to speak most about, in that we have a laptop for each student in the district, and that really is something wonderful. Those 6 ladies that you saw with me in that picture, we work hard to maintain all of that equipment for those students to ensure that their academics run smoothly. 7,200 laptops. It takes us all summer to clean those, repair those, and get them ready for distribution for the first day of school. And we work hard, and we are proud of our accomplishments. We also, during the school year, support the almost 900 staff members and close to 700 classrooms across the district, and the technology that's provided in those classrooms.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was on mute. I'm going to open up for comments to any of the board members. And I apologize to board members in advance because I have my small iPhone doing this. So I'm scrolling to see if anyone's raising a hand. So feel free to just speak up and I'll
Yes.
recognize you that way.
Mr. President, I also see Mr. Hester.
Mr. Hester, we'll start with you, sir.
Yes, Mrs. Kaufman, I just wanted to thank you. You and your team are superstars. Last year, when you were able to roll out to all of our students and be prepared for what nobody could have predicted, the pandemic, it's just fabulous. We can't thank you enough for your commitment. The time and effort you all put into this, the school district doesn't go unnoticed. I just can't believe how well and how smooth the technology part of this has gone. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hester. Any other board member? Hearing and
Mr. DiTullio.
oh, Mr. Jacobs.
I'll share maybe a humorous anecdote, maybe another unintended consequence of our elementary kids having computers at all times. I think one of those unforeseen impacts is just the way they kind of learn when left to their own devices, no pun intended. This last year, we've got a 7-page PowerPoint on why our family needs a dog from our first grader. We have the same first grader's birthday list in not a list of words, but QR codes that we can scan with our phones to go straight to Amazon, which I don't know how to do. And not to mention many different animations and things that they create that if they would not have that PC, they wouldn't have learned that. And we give them the technology to do that on their own time. So I think I appreciate all of that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Any other board members? Hearing no
Mr.
others.
President,
Oh.
I would just like to add, at the
Please.
very beginning of the pandemic, when the governor sent everyone home and said only essential personnel could stay, this was one of the groups: custodian, maintenance, cafeteria, and this group, including other people that work behind the scenes in technology as well. And they're in the basement of the central office. And I remember going downstairs and just seeing these women and the other people who work behind the scenes, including Mr. Van Scoy, who never wants any of the credit, swapping out computers. That, you know, if something wasn't working, instead of a child or a parent bringing that laptop in and having to wait, instead they quickly would swap out with an extra computer while they were fixing another. And I just saw this assembly line approach that I don't see with many other help desks, not even at the college level. So my commendations and my appreciations, especially in the beginning when we didn't know much about COVID. These women and men were still coming in every day as essential personnel, and I am personally grateful. And then in addition, many people don't see the behind the scenes support for the adults. And so when so many adults were sent home and deemed non-essential by the state, although every school personnel member was essential, quickly this team figured out how to deploy people from their homes and be able to do things confidentially and to be able to do things to service children. And I'm just grateful. That does not, I will forever remember those images in the basement of how quickly they were swapping out laptops and making sure that kindergartners got their laptops through a car delivery program, just like Amazon. And I am grateful for your commitment, Jennifer, and your colleagues.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Just a little trivia piece for you. During the pandemic from March to July of 2020, we exchanged close to 600 pieces of equipment just to make sure everything, and some pieces of equipment just needed a simple little restart on their device, but the idea was to keep those academics going as much as possible for them to have as little time away from the academics, and therefore we would just swap it out with another device and repair and do whatever needed to be done behind the scenes.
We are so happy that you folks were willing to go that extra mile to do all that as well. So I know Dr. Vitale covered it, but I have to give my thanks, you know, having the kids, you know, be ready to work. It seemed seamless. You made it look easy. You even make it look easy when, you know, we bring back computers as parents and, you know, you get them ready for the next year and they're, you know, redeployed out. There's never an issue. I shouldn't say never. If there is an issue, you fix it. And it's been amazing to see how well that has worked in all our time with the one-to-one going on. Kudos from a parent, you know, children that have been able to be, you know, the direct recipients of your hard work. And again, you know, you folks, you know, I think it was humorous when Dr. Vitale said, you know, in the basement, but you know, you guys are behind the scenes. You're kept in the basement sometimes, and you don't get the recognition that you deserve on a daily basis. So, you know, again, pass this along to the whole team that we appreciate everything you've done, and not just the last year. We know that was tremendous what you did, but for all the years before that and all the years to come, we'll try to make sure that we say thank you enough. And knowing that there is an IT Professionals Day, we'll make sure it's on the calendar and that we're recognizing you folks on a yearly basis like you deserve. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for supporting the IT department and really propelling that department forward.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, that was all I had for my section.
Okay, thank you
Unless
very
you have
much.
questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Andresi? Hearing none, we'll move on to the COVID-19 update. Dr. Vitale, please.
Thank you so much. The first part of my report usually includes numbers from the COVID-19 Pennsylvania Department of Health Early Warning Monitor Dashboard. For Butler County, when we look at the most recent 7-day period, that is September 24th through September 30th, is the latest update. And then they compare those 7 days to the previous 7 days, September 17th through September 23rd. So for the most recent 7 days, the difference in confirmed cases, the most recent 7 days compared to the last 7 days, we are up by 84 cases in our entire county. The incident rate is up to 383.8. The incident rate is the most recent 7 days per 100,000 residents. The PCR percent positivity rate for the most recent 7 days in Butler County is 15.5%. The difference in the average daily number of COVID-19 hospitalizations are down by 0.9, but I was on my Monday afternoon call with Butler Health System today and all of the Butler County superintendents, as well as the county commissioners, and Butler Hospital is experiencing a surge. And so if you can keep all of the staff members there in your thoughts, please. The other differences, we have a percent of hospital emergency department visits for the most recent 7 days. That is up by 2.3%. That is just Butler County. The other report that I bring closer to home is a summary of the 14-day rolling average. And so the first thing we look at is we look at the Butler County 14-day rolling average. We pull those numbers onto our own spreadsheet from the Pennsylvania Department of Health. And so for the day ending October 3rd, yesterday, and mining that data today at noon, we are at Seneca Valley zip codes incident rate per 100,000 in a 7-day total is 261.82 cases. Seneca Valley zip codes incident rate per 100,000 in a 14-day rolling average is at 33.40. And Seneca Valley zip codes incident rate for the 14-day rolling average, not per the 100,000, is at 23.21. According to the CDC, we are still in the high level of county transmission. And for the Butler County incident rate, when we just look at a 7-day total rolling from the Pennsylvania Department of Health, we are at 801 cases. Now I'd like to go to what does that mean to our schools? We are holding our own, and that is a good thing. The active student cases right now in the Seneca Valley School District, we have 25. And this was last updated last night at 8 o'clock. We will be working on an update this evening because we did have more cases come in over the weekend. We have 82 students in quarantine as of last night. We have 2 active staff cases and 3 staff in quarantine. We know those numbers will come up slightly based on some cases that came in today. Our total active cases are 27, total in quarantine is 85 as of last night. Our higher number, and higher is relative, we know, but at Hayne Middle School in the 5-6 building, last night we were reporting 10 cases. We know we had at least 6 to 8 more cases come in today, and there are 2 classrooms we're watching there. Those classrooms will not be closed. They will be open tomorrow, but we are continuing to do contact tracing. Parents were notified this evening if their child was a close contact. And in those 2 rooms, since we are seeing 3 to 5 cases in each of those rooms, we will notify all parents. Again, those classrooms are all open tomorrow, but we are going to permit some live streaming there due to COVID situations, and those parents will receive a letter if they haven't already this evening. That's all I have for my COVID update, Mr. President. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Dr. Vitale? Hearing none. We will, thank you, Dr. Vitale. We'll move on in our agenda to our agency reports. We're going to start off with the VOTEC, and that's going to be Mr. Peterson and Mr. Jacobs, please.
Mr. President, we're in another one of those calendar cycles where the next JOC meeting is this week, Thursday. So whatever news we have is pretty stale. I will share with you today, I went up to the campus for a tour, and it's the first time I've ever had the chance to walk through the various shops and classrooms while the kids are actually there. And it was like the anthill at the picnic. I mean, there was so much going on and so many people doing things and in and out and back and forth and kids coming up to the teachers, the instructors and asking for questions. And what I didn't see was anybody sitting. I mean, it's incredible how much activity goes on. And of course, it's compacted into a couple hours a day. So I think I always had a sense of how busy it is. I was really impressed. And of course, this year, the census, although it's not official yet, the census is significant. One item I did have a chance to talk to Dr. Heiler about was a pending articulation agreement with Duquesne University for the sports medicine, the new sports medicine program. Kind of excited about that. It's a new program that's taken off, and it'll be helpful to the kids that are interested in that to secure some headway as they go into their post-secondary education. So all's well. Mr. Jacobs, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Nothing from me. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Pleasure. That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peterson, I'd just like to comment, whenever I was on the JOC years ago, my wife and I took the same tour you took, and it's impressive, as you say. And one of the things that we walked away from is every one of those students that we met up there, not only did they shake your hand, they looked you in the eyes as they did it. Very confident, very, they weren't just going to vote tech. They were going to learn their career, and you could just tell, and they were so excited about it. It was one of the most positive, wonderful experiences I've had. So, but thank you for taking that tour.
Yep, pleasure.
If there's no other questions on the VOTEC update, we'll move on to the IU update. And again, as Mr. Peterson said, it's that time of the year when the calendars don't quite match up. So I really don't have anything other than what I had presented last month. We did have our meeting, all's well, HVAC projects moving along still, all those types of things. We do have a meeting at the end of the month, so I'll have another update for everyone, not our next meeting, but next month. So any questions on the IU update, such as it was? And hearing none, we'll move on to the WPIAL update. And Mr. Hester, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did have a meeting this month. September is usually a sort of a restructuring time. We spend a lot of time approving student transfers from one school to another. It's what most of our time is spent with. We also have, like everywhere else, there are quite a few games that have been canceled due to COVID. But one side effect we've found is we've seen some schools canceling games because they say they have some issues, but we found that they were really not happy with the matchup that was happening that week. So WPIL and the PIAA has had to sort of try to crack down on some of that and encourage those teams to find different time to play or make up a game. And that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you for the update, Mr. Hester. Are there any questions for Mr. Hester? Hearing none. We'll move on to a legislative update, and I have one prepared. They'll start with, we'll start with some of the rulings that have come out. These are challenges to the mask requirement rulings. The first one is a federal judge has ruled against the parents challenging the Trident Easton School District masking requirements, saying he didn't see the evidence that wearing a mask violated their religious beliefs. The opinion that was issued last week by Judge Mitchell S. Goldberg didn't dismiss the case against the Chester County School District, but it did reject the parents' call for an immediate injunction blocking the mask mandate. The school that it said the school was carrying out in compliance with the state's order requiring the masks. Two other cases challenging that order are also working their way through Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Commonwealth courts. Those cases both argue with different claims that the order from the acting secretary, Allison Beam, wasn't permitted under Pennsylvania disease prevention and control law, which Beam cited as her authority for issuing it. The state maintains that the law gave it the power to issue the order, while the Trident Easton parents also argued that the state lacked that authority. They didn't show why a federal court should address that claim. And on Thursday, there was another ruling. This was in U.S. Middle District Court, where Judge Matthew W. Braun refused to issue a temporary restraining order that would lift the COVID-19 mask mandate in the Montoursville area school district. Those parents in that suit did not challenge the order by the acting Secretary Beam, but they challenged the superintendent's authority to change the health and safety plan without action by the school board. And in his ruling, the judge said that the Constitution does not shield us from all things we dislike. And he also said, quote, "The Constitution does not guarantee students a right to attend school without wearing a mask, and being required to do so neither inflicts irreparable harm nor in any way violates a student's right to freely associate and assemble with others." He further stated the parents have failed to demonstrate an infringement of their children's entitlement to a public education because the Montoursville mask mandate does not prevent them from attending school. The judge also concurred with the Chief Deputy Attorney General Karen M. Roman, who at a September 24th hearing on the parents' motion said that Beam's order was a disease control measure that no superintendent or school board could go against. So that's some of the legalese and what's working its way through the courts right now on the masking mandate. There's some legislation to talk about as well. The first one was House Bill 1254, which was defeated 94 to 105. And that bill offered to give any students whose school does not offer full-time in-person instruction a tuition voucher worth the average per student state subsidy for their district. The bill was not restricted to just COVID-19 related closings either. It was for any closing. But that bill, like I said, was defeated 94 to 105. There possibly could be a resurgence of that and a reintroduction of that in the next coming month. Another one that's on the horizon was House Bill 1332. It was recently introduced and would modify the school code to require online curriculum availability. It would require that a school entity post all curriculum offered by that school on its publicly accessible internet website and update the curriculum information each time new or revised curriculum was added. The information required would include an internet link or title for every textbook used by that school. This is something that Seneca Valley, as many of you know, we've been doing for some time, as have some of the other more affluent districts in the state. Unfortunately, there are too many districts that don't have the resources that our district has and are unable to implement another unfunded state mandate. The next on the list that I have is Senate Bill 552. This is a right to know reforms law. This was passed in the Senate and it now moves to the House for consideration. This bill would create a new process by which the agencies, which include school boards, may petition the Office of Open Records, OOR for short, for release from vexatious requesters. A vexatious requester are individuals who use the right to know law with malicious intent to intimidate, harass, or punish an agency, which results in bogging down the agency and wasting taxpayer resources. This was never anticipated by the General Assembly when the original statute was passed, and relief could include an OOR order that the agency need not comply with the request from the vexatious requester for up to 1 year. So those are some of the laws that are moving through and bills that are moving through our legislature at this time. Are there any questions or comments on that legislative update? Hearing none, we'll move on our agenda then. In our agenda, you will find the next item, financial reports, and there's backup for all these items that's been provided for operations, senior high activities, intermediate high activities, middle school activities, athletics, food services, tax collection, and capital projects funds. If you have any questions, please send those to Ms. Bergner. And we do have a small action agenda that we need to take care of. And as always, we're going to start with some public comment. We are in receipt of some public comment. We had some folks that were on and dropped off. And to be honest, I'm going to let Dr. Polano take care of that part of the public comment section. I would like to read the public comment guidelines. All the public, the folks that signed up for public comment, I should say, have already received all these, but this is for the general public and just as a reminder to everyone. To start, the board policy allows for 30 minutes of public comment with each speaker allowed up to 4 minutes. We did extend that time and we've allowed 15 speakers to register. Per our policy, all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. In this case, it is me. No participant may address or question board members individually. The public comment portion is just that, an opportunity for the public to provide feedback, information, and opinions on upcoming board votes. I ask that everyone please address the board with respect and civility, just as you would expect to be treated at your home or workplace, and just as we expect students to act in our classrooms. This board has done their very best to keep politics out of the boardroom and away from school board agenda business. This is not where we campaign. This is where we conduct official school business. So I ask that all of our speakers tonight refrain from anything involving elections or campaigns. As far as how everything's going to work, I'm going to set a timer that will go off at 3:30, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, as a signal to the speaker to wrap up their comments. At 4 minutes, I will let the speaker know that they have reached their limit as a second indicator to complete their statement. And in accordance with our policy, the presiding officer, again, that is me, may interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. So with those guidelines being read, I'm going to ask Dr. Polano to start the introduction of our speakers.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first speaker this evening is Ms. Amy Courtney. Ms. Courtney, you now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So I would first like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak this evening. As already mentioned, my name is Amy Courtney, and I have two children in the Seneca Valley School District, one at Ryan Gloyer Middle School and one at Hayden Middle School. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As many may not be aware, it is also ADHD Awareness Month. And I thought because of that, it would be a good time to discuss ADHD and how it impacts children, their families, and the school district. ADHD is a neurological disorder that is marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and/or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with an individual's day-to-day life and their development. According to the most recent data, more than 6 million US children have been diagnosed with ADHD, including both of my children. Studies have also shown that boys are twice as likely as girls to be diagnosed. ADHD is often missed in girls because of the way their symptoms tend to present. Girls are more likely to present with attention and focus issues. These symptoms are often overlooked by parents, teachers, and their peers because they do not disrupt the classroom. Nearly 2/3 of children with ADHD have at least one other neurological condition. Studies have shown that 33% of children with ADHD are also diagnosed with anxiety, and 17% of children with ADHD are also diagnosed with depression. Undiagnosed ADHD leads to an increased risk of anxiety and depression. Additionally, ADHD, as well as anxiety and depression, have been shown to mask gifted students in their presentations and evaluations. So you may be asking yourself, why is any of this relevant to you, the Seneca Valley School Board? It is relevant because it is of the utmost importance that our teachers and support staff are trained to recognize the signs of ADHD, especially the often missed executive function signs, such as difficulty focusing, organization struggles, time management struggles, and difficulty prioritizing work. Early intervention is key to provide children and their families with the proper tools to set these children up for success and to limit the increases to anxiety and depression that come along with undiagnosed ADHD. To help portray the importance of a well-trained staff, I'm actually going to use my own family as an example. When my daughter started 3rd grade, she came home every day for the first month or so with a planner that had nothing written in it. And she would tell us she had no homework. She was our first, so we assumed that was accurate, until we get a call from the teacher letting us know our daughter had not turned in any homework for the school year. Turns out she would lose focus throughout the day and not write anything down and not even realize she had missed that she had homework. After the first 9 weeks, we noticed a quick dip in her grades that lasted perhaps a week. After the holidays, we met with her teacher who described the focus issues and organizational issues she had noticed with my daughter. Based on her observations, we realized much of what we had chalked up to her as being a kid could be more. So we took her for a private evaluation. She was ultimately diagnosed with ADHD combined type. Throughout the process, as we began to learn more about ADHD, my husband and I recognized a lot of ourselves and our other child in the ways ADHD may present. In the long run, my entire family have now had full neurological assessments completed, and we've all been diagnosed with ADHD, which is not uncommon due to the genetic component of ADHD. And in case you're wondering, yes, that does mean my house can be a bit chaotic. Without Mrs. Cornaby's, who is my daughter's third grade teacher, awareness of the ADHD executive function signs, my entire family could still be stumbling along without at least some of the roadmaps to guide us. My husband and I were both undiagnosed kids and have had a long-term impact to that. I've struggled with anxiety and my children have additional struggles. That is why it is imperative that teachers and staff on all aspects of ADHD, including the struggles with focus, organization, the ability to prioritize, and how it can mask students' true academic potential, and the mental health implications associated with it. Therefore, I implore you, the Seneca Valley School Board, to help prioritize training teachers and staff on ADHD, especially in the aspects of ADHD that are often missed because they do not cause disruptions to the classroom. I would like to finish by thanking you, all the teachers and staff who have worked with my children, but especially Mrs. Cornaby at Hayne Elementary, whose observations of one child impacted every person in my family. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker this evening is Tammy Laser. Tammy, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Good evening, guys. My name's Tammy Blazer, as Dr. Polano just said. I'm in Region 1 with Leslie Bradle as my board member. I have been a resident of the Seneca Valley School District for 35 of my 50 years, having spent K through 12 being educated through the Seneca Valley School District. And the past 26 years, I spent my career in the pharmaceutical industry. So my husband, Eric, and I, we have two SV students, one who is a junior in high school, and the other is a 2020 SV grad who is now at Miami of Ohio. As the daughter of a teacher and coach, I've been engaged with the district, attending many board meetings over the years. And when Dr. Vitale and Heather Lewis joined our district, it was great to see them waste no time setting up meet and greets to introduce themselves to the community and share their plans to grow the district, asking for community input often. And one of the growth areas included the much needed facility and grounds updates that had been neglected. And being a part of the parent-formed pool task force, Dr. Vitale and Ms. Lewis listened and collaborated with us over a few-year period as we discussed the 50-year-old SV natatorium. And Dr. Vitale, her administration and board recognized the importance of learning to swim, with drowning being a leading cause of death in children under 10 and a skill you do for a lifetime, regardless of age. So 10 years later, countless hours of planning and executing from the board and administration, our district has a new aquatic center that will sustain our students for 50 more years, hopefully. And my son, who learned to swim at that old pool, is now teaching kids to swim at the new aquatic center. So this past weekend, I'd like to share one highlight of the new aquatic center is we had the opportunity to showcase our new facility with 500 swimmers competing at a USA Swimming sanctioned event. This was a volunteer run event over 6 individual sessions, and 80 of those swimmers are SV students. The feedback had been amazing, and we did it all in a very compliant manner. So when I think about our school board and administration, I think of integrity and a few attributes of integrity that this board exemplifies. First, honesty. The board's honesty and transparency with the community on so many initiatives over the years. Respect. The respect our board has for each other as they collaborate on agenda items. And they're not always going to vote unanimously and have differences of opinion, but they all have each other's back on the decision that's made. And responsibility, the countless hours, especially this past year, that they volunteered to keep our kids in the live classroom. And pride, the pride this board has for our district is truly contagious. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued service. And I know Miss Lewis is not here today, and I hope she's recovering and doing well. So thanks again for the opportunity to speak, and you guys have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Third speaker this evening is Ermi Batavia. Ermi, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Ermi Batavia. We have two girls in the district, one in 9th grade and one in 4th grade. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. I wanted to come on because I feel it's important that we take a couple minutes to just thank all of our current board members here. I know the board comes across many difficult decisions that are never going to be unanimously agreed to by the Seneca Valley parents, but I appreciate you always thinking about all of our kids, parents, and community. I am so grateful that activities, musicals, and trips, sports activities are all coming back this year. It means so much to both of my girls. Thank you again for spending countless hours, volunteer hours, making our schools safe and at the same time, an amazing place for our kids to go to school. It's been almost 6 weeks now since we started school with mandatory masks, and I am so happy to see that our COVID cases in our district being consistently low. I think I speak for many parents that virtual learning does not work for the majority of families. I am so grateful we can wake up every day and send our kids into school. That takes me to my next topic of teachers. I want to take time to thank all of our Seneca Valley teachers. No one could have predicted COVID and this pandemic, but the teachers at Seneca Valley have been simply amazing. They have had to learn very quickly how to manage multiple methods of teaching kids. It was hard enough to manage two girls at home, and I know that they have spent many of their off days and hours in coming up with the best solutions for all of their students. In closing, I just want to say thank you again to our board members, teachers, and all the staff at Seneca Valley in caring and working hard for our school and kids every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker this evening is Erin Schaefer. Erin Schaefer, you now have the opportunity to address the board.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. My husband and I have two elementary age children in the district. I just wanted to first take this opportunity to thank all of our board members for everything that you do for our schools and our children. I admire how all of you have worked through difficult issues together, even when you don't all necessarily agree. You've had to endure an incredible amount of pressure from both sides recently, and I admire the level of professionalism that you all have demonstrated. I have to admit that prior to August of this year, I was not entirely familiar with all of the roles and responsibilities of the school board members, and I certainly didn't realize how much of your time and other resources you invest. This difficult and divisive time that we're all going through as a district has really taught me how important it is to remain informed, both as a parent and as a member of the community. I just wanted to let you all know how much I appreciate you. I also just wanted to bring up a few items I was curious about regarding the new school building. My questions are, is it still slated to open at the beginning of next school year? And also, is there any information yet as to when redistricting changes might be communicated to parents? So those are just some things that I was wondering about, and I'm guessing other parents might be also. So I just thought I would bring those things up. Again, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Speaker number 5 recently declined the opportunity to address the board this evening. That being said, I'm going to move directly to speaker number 6. Lindsay Douglas, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Terrific. In the former Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin established an oligarchy claiming that the general public was too uneducated to make decisions for themselves. How is this school board behaving any differently? It certainly is not the representative democracy that it claims to be. Not a single poll or survey has been conducted asking the parents for their input. Public comment at board meetings has been restricted, and the only members on the board who voted to impose mask mandates and healthy quarantines are not parents of current students. So it feels very much like you are trying to tell us that you know better. I've also heard the claim that these restrictions are in place because of a mandate imposed by the Department of Health, who herself is an attorney and not a medical doctor. If that were the case, then how can you explain that our immediate neighbors to the north, Butler Area School District, are conducting themselves very differently? This also does not stand up when weeks earlier, this very same school board imposed their own mandates without any direction to do so. For every study that you cite showing the effectiveness of masks, I can cite another showing the opposite. My sons can go to the grocery store without a mask. They can go to Fun for All without a mask. We can go to restaurants or get haircuts, no masks. But when they need to learn, decipher instruction, and focus, it's done with a mask. What can arguably be considered one of the most important parts of their lives is done behind a veil. I know this has been asked, but it has never been answered. How many hours a day are each of you subjected to wearing a piece of cloth over your face? To say that this is not a political decision is misleading at best. The hypocrisy of all of this can be highlighted when we see large gatherings of celebrities, all without masks, and the President of the United States himself embracing foreign leaders without masks on. We can no longer claim that the reason behind this either is vaccination status, as the CDC even acknowledges on their own webpage that fully vaccinated people can spread the virus to others. My oldest son is in second grade at CVE, and my family loves CVE. We love the teachers and the administration there. They have found ways to show kindness and understanding throughout this entire pandemic, which is in fact his entire school career, I must add. I wish we could say that we felt the same for this board and upper administration. The very fact that I know my comments and opinions stated here will go on deaf ears speaks to that. Lastly, I can assure you that with recent actions from this district pertaining to this topic and questionable curriculum choices, that you are awakening a sleeping giant. Parents will no longer sit idly by while you make decisions unilaterally that affect our children. We love the very foundations of freedom and liberty that our country was founded upon, and we love our children. While we previously took for granted that you had the best interest in mind for what is most precious to us, our children, we no longer believe this to be the case. Our eyes are open and we are paying very close attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker this evening is Serenity Vincent. Serenity Vincent, you should now have the opportunity to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Okay, thank you. Hi, and thank you for a few minutes of your time tonight. I just want to make a few comments on the emerging issue of long haul COVID in children. Right now, all of the US studies are all preprint, so there's not a lot we can look at there, but the UK has released some studies. And what they're finding is pretty startling. More than half of kids aged 6 to 16 who contracted COVID will have at least one symptom that lasts more than 120 days. Often these are healthy kids, athletes at their highest peak, and kids that have never had a major illness before. In the largest study that they have in the UK, 15% of kids 12 to 16 years old are still having symptoms 5 weeks after infection. The most common symptom that they're seeing, and you'll also hear about this in the US, is the multi-system inflammation syndrome. It comes with heart inflammation and multi-system inflammation, different organs in different parts of the body, and comes with extreme fatigue. The UK is also doing a study of 1,200 children that have already been identified to have long COVID. And although that study is not finished, so far, none of those 1,200 children have returned to their previous level of health before they caught COVID. Some of the more common symptoms of long COVID in children is shortness of breath, extreme fatigue, fevers that go up and down, brain fog, GI symptoms, anxiety, and their taste and smell not returning. In Children's Hospital Los Angeles, they've already made themselves a separate clinic just for kids with long COVID, and a separate clinic inside of that just for kids with the multi-system inflammation syndrome part. Now the Delta variant is causing a steep rise in the number of kids that are getting long COVID. You can kind of think of this the way Lyme disease presents here. When we have kids, they have Lyme disease, they go home from school, they take antibiotics for a few weeks, but then some of them have long-term problems and don't return to school. That is kind of the same idea as what is going on with long haul COVID, since it really hasn't been talked about very much in the United States. Right now, some school districts are now contemplating how they will service these students that are too sick to come back to school in person, but they also need live instruction and sometimes one-on-one instruction because they can't focus and they're very tired. And they obviously can't do cyber school either because they can't organize and be present on their own. Hopefully your actions as a board have already minimized the number of kids in our district that will have long COVID, and I urge you to keep this in mind as you make decisions in the future. People in a normal job, not your job, would be able to go to HR and complain about a hostile working environment to get protection from misinformation being yelled at you and from threats, and you cannot. So us parents would like to thank you for your dedication to our district and for your perseverance in this very complicated matter of the ongoing pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker this evening is Colleen Tanner. Colleen Tanner, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you. I am a parent of 2 children in the school district, one at Hain Middle School and one at Hain Elementary School. Thanks for continuing to allow us to meet virtually, and I hope this extends past the pandemic as many of us are involved in after school activities with our kids as coaches or team moms. So just wanted to put that little plug in. But I wanted to talk about something that came up last meeting. I wanted to follow up on a previous parental concern about the reading that was provided to some of our second graders about Ruby Bridges. My daughter also received this same reading. I have this story with me and will read it for others so people can hear it for context. Ruby Bridges was born in 1954. Back then, there were laws that separated Black people from white people. These laws were not fair. Then a law was passed that said that children of all colors had to go to the same school. In 1960, Ruby was chosen to attend William Frantz Elementary School. She was in 1st grade. Ruby was nervous and timid to start school. She would be the first African-American student to attend William Frantz Elementary School. Some white parents did not want their children to go to the school with Ruby. They kept them at home. Officers had to walk Ruby to school because the angry white people yelled at Ruby. Every day, Ruby felt relieved when she arrived safely at school. When the angry people yelled mean things at Ruby, Ruby never yelled back. She was a kind and courteous little girl. She loved her teacher, Mrs. Henry. Ruby always used her manners at school and she behaved for her teacher. For a long time, Ruby was the only student in her entire class. She did not have any friends to play with or eat lunch with. Even though she was lonely, Ruby always worked very hard. Every day she put up a lot of effort into her schoolwork. Eventually, other Black students went to school with Ruby. White students also went to school. Today, students of all colors can go to school together. Ruby's courage made a big difference for all children. Ruby taught others to be kind and loving. And so I know there was concerns about the angry white people yelling. And so yes, there were angry white people yelling at a child who was trying to go to school. And federal marshals had to escort her to school every day for 1 year because local governments and families were refusing to follow the US Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus the Board of Education several years prior. So it is imperative that we teach this because it is the truth and it is accurate. It also teaches our children the importance of standing up for what is right, even when others are against what is right. And so I thank our teachers for putting stories up here. And I thank the board, especially those board members who continue to support things like the Learning 2025 initiative, the Project Suitcase that celebrates visible and invisible diversity that I know that began at CVE. And so not everything is great in our school, and that's okay. We also need to continue to evaluate how things can be better. And it's not always great for our Black and our mixed race children like my own. In kindergarten, I had to explain my son what the N-word meant after a child called him that at school, or had to explain to him why maybe one of his friends doesn't want to play with him because he's brown, because they said that to him. So yes, it is important that our schools teach the power of words and empathy and compassion, like this story of Ruby Bridges, and not stop because of an egocentric view of how my children will feel if an accurate depiction of a story highlights how there were white people who were angry towards a Black girl asking for educational opportunities. But I ask that we don't just stop at simple stories like this. I ask that the administration and the school board continues to expand on what is our accurate history and explain the consequences that parents face because
You've reached 4 minutes.
Okay, I'll finish in 1 more minute. Because the decision to send our kids to school, our father lost their job, grocery stores wouldn't sell to them, and our grandparents were evicted from their farms. So it's important that we share these stories, but we also highlight and allow our Black students to be celebrated and learn from other great stories, not just Ruby Bridges, but how it does impact our country today. And it's not to take away from other students, but to make sure that we're building up all of our students, no matter what their differences are, so that we can make our country a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker this evening is Carrie Zimmer. Carrie Zimmer, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I wanted to take a moment to show my gratitude for the Seneca Valley administration, staff, and school board for all that they have done and continue to do for the students in our district. Their time and effort that is challenging in normal or typical school years is tenfold in the midst of a global pandemic. I am grateful for the delicate balancing act you are constantly doing to preserve the student activities like sports, performing arts, and homecoming festivities, while also keeping the safety and well-being of our students at the forefront. I appreciate the flexibility you have shown, like the change to a cyber format for the 7th through 12th open houses held in September, the cafeteria workers making the best options they can with the dwindling supplies they receive, and the amazing teachers we have working in our district who continue to persevere despite the many changes they continue to encounter. I admire the patience that has been shown as the district is bombarded with frivolous right-to-know requests that take away time that should be focused on efforts elsewhere. I respect you as you move ahead with the business of our district instead of relitigating decisions that are firmly in the past. I know that the vast majority of us want the best for our schools and our students. Let us work together to find common ground, speak with honesty, and support the men and women who have the best of intentions, the knowledge, and the integrity that will guide the important outcomes for Seneca Valley. Finally, I would like to take a moment to clear Leslie Bradle's name from an accusation made by Aaron McClymans tonight on a social media platform. I find it appalling that someone would make a claim in a public forum without any due diligence and evidence other than from one person's account. Ironically, the reason I know it was not Leslie is because it was me. I will not waste anyone's time here tonight explaining my actions, but I will say that the accusation is one-sided and missing important context. What bothers me most is that this person jumped to such conclusions and took no time to vet the situation to make sure they were speaking accurately and with honesty. Had it not been for the crazy irony that I am speaking here tonight, a false and inflammatory rumor could have festered. I hope this post is removed immediately and a public apology is offered to Ms. Bradle. People should be more careful before they make accusatory public statements in the future. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Ken also recently declined the opportunity to address the board this evening. Therefore, I am moving directly to speaker 11, who is Nikki Marnick. Nikki Marnick, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Nikki Marnick. First, I'm a mother of a 5th grader and 11th grader in our district. Secondly, I am an elementary teacher in the Seneca Valley School District. Today, I will speak to you as a mother, a Christian, and an educator. First, I want to say I love the Seneca Valley School District. As a special educator in our district, I know firsthand the great lengths we go to accommodate the special needs of our students. It is with honor I serve my students each and every day. However, as a mother and Christian, I cannot stand here and thank you. You have not met the needs of my daughter and many other families who have regretfully pulled our children from the district. As Christian families, we believe what the Bible says. We believe our healing comes from Jesus who died for us. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. Psalm 103:3, he came to heal all our sicknesses and all our diseases. In his time on earth, people with leprosy walked the streets wearing bells to notify others of their state, yelling, unclean. Matthew 8:3, Jesus touched them and healed them. In the Bible, it says 2 Corinthians 5:7, walk by faith and not by sight. Wearing masks is not an inconvenience to us as Christians. It is against our religious beliefs and faith. You are denying our right to live by our faith by mandating masks, or if you authorize a mandate for immunizations. We teach our daughters every day to love others. Let's get one thing straight. Wearing a mask doesn't make you more loving or more kind. It doesn't mean you are less educated. It means your freedom is being taken away. And you are allowing our children to be damaged emotionally, socially, academically, and physically. It is not COVID damaging our children. It is the protocols people are mandating and following. Our children are not socializing freely. Our children are not learning freely. Our children are suffering, our healthy, sweet, kind children. I'm asking and pleading with you, let our children breathe freely. Let our children smile at each other. Let our children learn in the environment you as administration and as teachers know they need best. This is wrong. And if you don't see that, I feel saddened that you're so deceived or prideful that you think you know best. Let me say this, you, the government, the CDC, the PA Department of Education, PA Department of Health, Governor Wolf, etc., do not know what is best for our kids. We do. Seneca Valley has always had such a good name. Now there is division. This division was caused when you wouldn't let parents decide what is best for our own children. If a parent wants or needs their child to wear a mask, let the parents make that decision. We are not anti-mask. We are anti-mask mandate. It is an easy fix. Stop playing God, stop playing parent, stop playing doctor, and be educators. We put our daughter in a Christian school this year. We don't get a free and appropriate public education anymore. My daughter was sick last week and we kept her home. She had a fever that we knew was from her sinuses. After dealing with Seneca last year, I waited again for the call from nurse or the administration saying she had to be tested in order to return. Guess what I got? I got an email from her teacher saying how much her and the class missed her and for her to feel better. You know, like the good old days when you were not shamed for having a cold, when you didn't lose weeks of in-person education. You are all knowledgeable and educated people. It is confusing that you're not seeing masks and immunizations as propaganda for money and power. Rise up and do what is best as educators, as people who are supposed to care deeply about our children. Is it fear binding you from allowing parents to make decisions? Is it money? Is it pride that you think you know best? Seneca Valley has always been about inclusion. You are excluding our religious and God-given rights. Where is the religious exemption form? Where is our choice? And for future reference, in the Seneca Valley School District, many families in the Seneca Valley School District that will not be getting our children vaccinated. Families are putting up with the masks for now. I would not encourage anyone to make spiritual or medical decisions for your children or grandchildren, and neither should you be calling any shots for our children. It is your job to educate. It is my job to educate. You say hard decisions. You say hard decisions, open schools. It's not a hard decision. Give parents the choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Speakers number 12, 14, and 15 have also recently declined the opportunity to address the board this evening. Therefore, I will introduce our final speaker tonight, and that is Selena Smith. Selena Smith, you should now have the option to unmute your microphone to address the board.
Thank you, Dr. Polano. As she said, I'm Selena Smith. I have one child in first grade at Hain Elementary. I came here not to talk about masks or COVID. I actually addressed you guys about 2 weeks ago about phonics, the importance of phonics in schools. But I've been running a fundraiser at work between some of the employee resource groups. And we decided this year, not last year, but the year before, we did a backpack initiative where we collected food and donations that went to an elementary school in the Pittsburgh area to distribute to students to take home on weekends who didn't have food security. And I was trying to figure out a way to do something similar this year, because we didn't do anything last year, and I just, you can't let COVID take all your good work away. So I have been doing a food drive through work with the Greater Pittsburgh Area Food Community Food Bank. And it got me talking conversations with people. And I heard about a program that I wanted to bring up to you, because you might not know, but like 14% of the children in Butler County live with food insecurity. And the income levels that you need to be below to get a reduced cost lunch or a free lunch are, to me, it's just shockingly low. And so I know that school lunches are free this year and breakfasts are free. You've got the grab and go that you can get, but this is more of a forward looking idea, not something for this year because it would require some administration. But in my conversations, I came to learn of something called the Hunger Free Fund that is implemented by a large district, kind of as large as ours in the Chicago area, called Valley View. And I'll read you the who and the what in their info sheet for the Hunger Free Fund. So those who are interested, the Hunger Free Fund feeds students when they're in need of a breakfast or lunch, but have no meal account balance remaining. The funds are exclusively used to provide full healthy meals. No snacks or a la carte items may be purchased with Hunger-Free funds. So the way that my friend explained, he used to live there, that he explained that they do is when, a parent goes into their account to put money onto their student's account, they get an option if they would like to donate anything to the Hunger Free Fund. Similar to like when you go to Petco, they say, do you want to donate $1 to our fund? Or you want to round up and donate to a fund? And I just thought that with as many kids who probably aren't under the poverty level or 150% poverty level, but they're in that in between where they can't get assistance, but maybe they've forgotten their lunch or their parents don't have enough money to put funds on there. This might be a way for the community to be able to contribute to their food security. And I know that this year lunch is free, but in the coming years, we can't count on lunch is going to be free. It's probably going to go back to how it always was. And that food insecurity is going to come back. So that's just an idea that I didn't want to, I know I talked to you guys 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to forget it. And I really wanted you to know about it. It's called the Hunger Free Fund. And I can send you some information if you would like me to. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Closing my timer. Thank you everyone for your public comments. This time we're going to move on in our action agenda, and we do have one item that we need to take care of. And I would look for a motion to approve the following: to approve the resignations, appointments, leaves, sabbaticals, and retirements as included in your backup and discussed during executive session. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hester. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We discussed this in executive session, so we will move on to the vote. Lisa, if you call the roll, please.
Ms. Whittle,
Yes.
Mr. Nickel,
Yes.
Ms. Harrison,
Yes.
Ms. Bradel,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hester,
Yes.
Mr. Widowson,
Yes.
Mr. DiTullio.
Yes.
Motion carries with 9 in the affirmative.
Thank you. We'll move on to the administrative action. Mr. Nichol, please.
Sorry about that. Was on mute. By way of administration action, we've got a few things. The first is next week we'll be seeking a motion to approve the minutes as provided in our backup there for the work session on September 13th, 2021, the regular meeting on September 20 of 2021. We'd also be approving our treasurer's report, which is detailed in our backup, our general fund bills detailed in our backup, and the grand total of $1,622,900.91. Our construction fund bills, which are also detailed on your backup, and that is in the total of $4,473,080.82. And I believe I'll just move right into the administration action item. We will also be seeking a motion to approve the conference requests. Those are detailed in your backup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nick. Are there any questions on any of those items? Hearing none, we will move on to instruction action. Ms. Harrison, please.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. President. Next week, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the following instruction items, all provided in your backup. First is the Co-ed Cricket Club. Approve the establishment of the Co-ed Cricket Club at no cost to the district and under the supervision of volunteer sponsor, Mr. David Reichard. Second is Slippery Rock University Transition Achievement Program. Approve the agreement for the SRU Transition Achievement Program with SRU to provide transition services for the 2021-22 school year. Third is the BC3 College Within High School CWHS Partnership Agreement. Approve the CWHS Partnership Agreement between Seneca Valley School District and Butler County Community College from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Fourth item is 2 grant disbursements. Grant permission to apply for and disperse, if approved, the following grants. First is the First Tech Challenge Grant funded by the Arconic Foundation in the amount of $1,000 to fund the cost of equipment, fees, and supplies related to the 2021-22 First Tech Challenge. And the second is Homeless Children and Youth Grant in the amount of $62,248 funded by the United States Department of Education to support students who are experiencing homelessness to meet their physical and mental health needs.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Are there any questions or comments on any of these items?
I had one comment. I thought it was a great opportunity for more high school students with the BC3 partnership to earn college credits while still in high school at a very reasonable cost.
Yeah, one of the best programs out there for sure.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? I would have one. Oh, Ms. Bradle, is that you?
Yes, thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Bradle.
DiTilio. I was just wondering, since we have a lot of participants on tonight, if somebody could speak a little bit more about the Slippery Rock Transition Achievement Program, exactly what that entails.
Great
I'll
question.
be glad to take a first stab at that, and then others can join in. So the TAP program is available for our high school students. And many of you know that we educate students, of course, through 18, but some of our students with special needs will continue at Seneca Valley until they're 21. And many of those students need transition programs that help them learn life skills that would be appropriate for them to use beyond their high school experience. So this partnership program allows students to work and learn at Slippery Rock while they're still Seneca Valley students. It is a little bit similar to some of the vocational programs that we have going with places in the community, whether they would be the Marriott or Fun for All or Dairy Queen at some of those places over at the Strand Theater. But this is at a college campus and gives those students those rich experiences. They do, for example, dine in the student dining room at the university and kind of get some experiences that are a little bit more adult than the experiences that they get when they're.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Roberts? I think that this is, those transition programs, as Dr. Roberts explained, a lot of folks don't realize that, special needs students are able to take it, that education until they're 21. And it does help them to become productive members of society. It's one of those great things that we can offer. And I'm glad that we do. And Dr. Roberts, great work on that as always. Any other questions or comments?
President, I did want to thank, week after week, we see these grant requests and grant disbursement requests. I just can't thank the staff, Ms. Mercer and Fortunato, and actually Dr. Roberts, for how much time and effort they and all their staff put in to get this money. A lot of school districts don't spend the time and effort to do this, and it saves us a tremendous amount of taxpayer funded money. And I do appreciate it, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hester. Any others? I'd like to piggyback a little bit on Mr. Hester's comment. Dr. Roberts, the homeless children and youth grant, I found it interesting that, we were getting, being able to apply for $62,000. Could you talk a little bit about what that grant is and how that works, throughout the Commonwealth?
Absolutely. So about a third of the districts in Pennsylvania were eligible to apply for these grant monies, and it's based on the number of homeless students that are attributed to our school district. So every year we report to the State Department of Education how many students are homeless in our district, and that includes, for folks that may not know, includes students that are in shelters with their family. It includes students that are temporarily residing in hotel rooms in our community. Also includes students that are doubled up, and that means that they are living with relatives or some other adult, but not living in their own home. So for a variety of circumstances, students are experiencing homelessness, and these grant monies would support them. So we want to make sure that there aren't barriers to their education. So if they've missed school, that we connect them with tutoring services to get them caught up. If there are situations where they don't have internet connectivity at home for them to be able to do their homework. So these are some of the services that we can provide through grant monies to make sure that they're making progress. And we also know that students that are experiencing homelessness have a more difficult time making a transition to their post-secondary life. And so we want to make sure that there's resources available to help them identify if college or trade school or something else would be appropriate for them and help them get there. There's certainly grant money available for students in need, but a lot of times making the transition from high school to that next thing is very, very difficult for our students experiencing homelessness. So that's what this is. And it is a 3-year grant. So if we're successful, this would carry us into the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. And I think it's also interesting to note that, there's a lot of districts throughout the Commonwealth who have a high eligibility that don't apply for this and don't get this help for the students of their district. And, it's another kudos to you and the entire administration, making sure that every one of our students, no matter what their background, what their need is, that you're addressing it and taking care of it the best way you can, and doing the extra work to go out and get this grant is very much appreciated. So thank you and everyone and your staff for the efforts. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, we'll go to personnel action. Mr. Widdowson, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next week, we'll be looking to set aside some time under personnel for any action that may come before the board in executive session, legal, or personnel.
Thank you very much. We are in receipt of approximately 30 pieces of communication since our last meeting. And those have all been answered or acknowledged or answered, whatever the case may be. So is there any other item to be brought before the board? Hearing and seeing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn our meeting then.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Widdowson. And was that Mr. Peterson as a second?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.